Louisa. Louisa.
Welcome everyone to another edition of Real Talk Straight Talk. My special guest today is Miss Roshaydia Morgan. And people, it took me like 5 times to get it right, but finally I got it right.
5th time is a charm.
That's right. So forget that 3 times is a charm stuff.
Yeah.
You just threw it right
It's
out.
whatever you make it be.
Like I said, welcome to Real Talk Straight Talk.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And we're glad to have you. But before we go any further, let me say a big shout out to our sponsors, Weed Community Center, Pastor T doing her thing, Up Like 7 Barbershop, big shouts to Put in the Crew. Of course, we got to talk about Paranite Bar and Grill, big shouts to Jiggy Mr. Williams. And of course, we have one of our regular co-hosts, her name is Angel. She runs the Fix Hair Salon. What's up, Angel? I know you're not on today, but we're going to get you like next week. So people watch out, we're coming back with Angel next week. It's my pleasure to have you here on the show, and the importance of, you're going to tell me, because I said it's great to have somebody from Western, and you're like, no, let's get this right. It's King's College. So my first thing I'm going to ask you is, tell me the difference. So I'm just somebody in London, and of course I made the mistake of just saying Western. Tell me the difference.
I mean, it's okay that you made the mistake because they're pretty much very much the same and not the same at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's affiliated school, so if you guys are familiar with GTA, you know, you have UFT and then you have UTM. It's kind of like that, and essentially you have the choice of, obviously you get accepted into King's University College Western, and you attend there, you have major in there, and you can also major at other universities, which is the other affiliated schools. So there's Huron, Brescia, and then you can also go to like Western. But I chose to do my degree at King's as well as at Western. So technically I am both, but I don't want to forget my King's degree because that's mainly where I'm at. I started there, so but the difference is you just graduate with a Western degree diploma because that's what's seen as recognition or recognized as a high university. So you just graduate with that. But essentially, I go to both. It's the best of both world campus. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any differences, like real differences? I don't know, you give me, some of them.
There is. Western, I guess the college aspect. Colleges tend to focus on a lot of experiential learning or hands-on learning and focus on more community, whereas like university aspect is different. It's very like pedagogy. It's very like, Brooksy, like it's just, it's a a it's different. It's
you want to say bougie, right?
Yeah, if you want to put it that way.
You can say this is real talk. You can say
it's bougie. It's a lot of students. It's bigger. The campus is way bigger. We only have 3,500 students at King's, and Western has like thousands of, a lot more than that. And the classrooms are smaller. You have a more chance getting to know your professor because the classrooms are smaller. The max is like 75, and like the max at like Western is like 500. Like there's a huge difference. So you get a college aspect, but you also get a university kind of treatment because it's like the same workload. Like the workload doesn't change.
Okay. So you got the bougie theoretical over here, and the real practical over here. And so you chose the practical there.
Yeah, I felt, and specifically the program that I'm in, it's like very unique. Like it's not really, they don't really have that at Western. It's a social justice and peace studies program, and I also major in gender and sexuality studies. So it's like a best of both worlds I get.
So tell me a little bit about the social justice aspect. What are you going to do with it when you come out?
Okay, so right now I really want to get into like more policy work, because I personally believe policy is one of the best ways to actually see change, like in terms of structure based, because everything at the end of the day relies on structure. No matter how much fights and protests and all that stuff we have, it will be a cycle, and the only way that it would actually be resolved is if policies change, which change overall people's experiences and all that stuff for the better. So that's what I want to do, like more policy, specifically in the education aspect. So I already work with the university in a way, and building on that experience, I kind of want to, I'm graduating this year, so I'm looking for a job full-time, hopefully in EDID work, so equity and diversity work, which is connected to my degree because it focuses on like justice, social justice. And I want to continue that, hopefully, and maybe do nonprofits. I know nonprofit world is not easy.
Yes, it's not.
Yeah, it's like you're doing a lot of work, and I know our lives depend on money, so it's not easy to balance work life and also running a company and organization. So props to you for doing this, to be honest. And I do want to do that, helping the community. Homelessness is a huge... definitely. I live downtown. Sorry. I'm not giving away my address, but downtown is... It's different.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different, and it's eye-opening. And I really want to do more work for the community. Obviously, making money in policy work, because it's a good job. You can make money in there, lots of money. But also, the money that I receive, I want to give back to the community and do something within, I guess, the homelessness aspect, as well as, like, women and stuff.
Okay. Toronto, you're going to stay a little bit?
Unfortunately, I don't see myself staying in London for too long.
I'm not going to hold that against you. We're not going to get it. But we are going to talk a little bit about the social justice. I'm glad you went there, because one of the things that I said we were going to talk about was Canada, right?
Yes.
Right. So for those that don't know, Jully Black, long time Juno nominee, not even Juno nominee, Juno Award winner, Jully Black. She put in a word in O Canada, right? And because of that, she got some negative feedback. In fact, one of the comments was, what did they say? And I got to ask my tech team to give me, because you know what, I forgot my phone. It's got all that information on it. But basically, it was some discriminatory comments, and the part that actually got me was the person was also an immigrant into Canada, right? What do you feel about Canada?
Okay, so I personally, I don't like O Canada. I don't even listen to O Canada, or actually stand up or do anything during O Canada, because the lyrics just are not true. I'm a huge advocate for Indigenous folks in community, and I work with community, I have family, friends in that community. So, as well as I guess, not really a settler, but forced settler that lives here. I believe that I also have privilege living on this land that's not mine. So it's hard to sing a national anthem that like promotes and as well as like I guess it doesn't speak truth.
Okay.
And I have so much and love the stance that Jully took. Is it Jully?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the stance that she took because it's true. It's not our land, you know?
And I get that. Okay, so if I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I actually thought about this for a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that, first of all, I'm glad that she took that stance, right? But there's also people, and I'm going to take, not technically take a side, but I'm going to say there are people that came here,
Mm-hmm.
and they're very patriotic, because I
Mm-hmm.
believe that's what led to this. They're very patriotic.
Yeah.
They came, and they see it in a different light.
Mm-hmm. How do
Right?
they see it?
Well, I can only imagine how they would see it. They don't have the experience or maybe the necessary knowledge about the wrongs,
Mm-hmm.
right? And sometimes when you're coming from a place where you're facing struggles, whatever the struggles are, and you're coming to a new place
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't have that kind of struggle, you're so excited and grateful.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see somebody taking a shot at it, right? And you're like, wait a minute, I came here because this is, let's call it the land of milk and honey, right?
Mhm.
You know, it's the land of milk and honey to them,
Mhm.
right? And they don't see why the people there are not
Mhm.
understanding that it's a land of milk and honey to them, right?
Yeah.
So, but there are different ways that you can express that. You don't have to be discriminatory to somebody and say, I disagree. And I think nowadays, in the time that we're living in, people are so non-forgiving,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you have a point of view, you want to get at somebody in a different way. You don't really want to. You don't really want to listen to them.
Uh-huh.
You don't want to get in that conversation. You just want to gig out and say whatever it means. And social media allows us to be very ignorant to each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? I also have indigenous friends and people
Mhm.
that I work with. I got to send a big shout out to Mr. Gary Brown. He does a lot of work in the indigenous community.
It's amazing.
But is it right to attack Canada in that sense? I know they do it in the States as well with,
Mhm.
with their national anthem. They have people that won't
Mhm.
stand for it.
Yeah.
Um,
May I speak? If I.
of course, I gotta hear you. That's why you're here.
I get your point. I totally understand that. And Canada has a very good way of making people feel very guilty, as well as changing the narrative that they're a nice, not like they are a nice country. When it comes to, I'm an immigrant, I'm not newly citizen, moved here 2009, so
Okay.
I'm originally from Jamaica, and I was so excited to come to Canada. I loved Canada. I was like, oh my goodness, I wanted to be white.
Okay.
Because I didn't find any beauty in blackness, because I've been brought up in this way to see blackness as a negative thing. And that's due to colonization. And colonization works very well. As well as capitalism, all that stuff works very well. When you are forced to move your country that was colonized
Yeah.
and go to another country that gives you all the opportunities. Like, again, remember, Canada follows the same American dream kind of like
Yeah.
light. Same thing with America or US. So you feel embedded, and you feel that you owe the country something for bringing yourself and uprooting yourself from a country that was, you don't even know your actual your
Yeah.
ancestry, right?
Yeah.
And you're basically stripped away from that and having to assimilate to something different. And of course you're going to feel proud because we're taught to, as soon as you want your citizenship, you have to learn the best things about Canada. You have to be tested on Canada. You're not tested the truth. You're not told about
Yes.
how Canada had killed and murdered Indigenous people and continuously missing and murdered Indigenous women go missing every day. If you check the streets in London, how many people are on the streets, and the ethnicity and how many Indigenous folks are continuously on the street, don't have drinking water, don't have food to eat, and the system continuously fails them. That's why. But when you come here, you're not taught that. You're taught to love the country and feel like grateful that you should be here.
Definitely.
Right?
There's no country that's actually encouraging immigration, right, or immigration, that's going to say, well, first of all, we're a terrible country, we have terrible things. They're going to showcase the good things, right? So, and that's a story that we hear all the time about how Canada, and some people say Canada misrepresents itself, right? But first of all, I got to give you props for explaining, and this is what really makes real talk, right? Because you said something there that we haven't touched on. But we've touched on it in a roundabout way, but I'm going to touch on it in the way that you brought it. You said that there were times when you first came here that you're trying to assimilate into the white culture as opposed to being with us, right? And that's kind of like that's a truth, right? And that's things that happen, not only here, but in the States as well, where people are like, well, you know what? There's so much negativity when I think of my own people. Let me assimilate because it seems to be the better thing. Right? So, first of all, congratulations. Thank you for sharing that, because that's big. Not a lot of people are going to come out and actually say it, right? And it allows us to go into another vein in this conversation.
100%.
How long did it take you for you to realize and say, well, you know what, hey, Black, I'm who I am, and this is where I need to be? Because now I hear you talking about giving back and getting into nonprofit, talking about indigenous rights, talking about helping. How long did it take you to get there?
You know what's so funny? I can't even answer that question because I feel like being a Black person, it's an everyday experience. Every day is different.
Yeah.
There's some days that I'm like, oh my goodness, I am so proud to be Black, especially in the month of February. Yeah. Like, everything's like great. You know, you see on TikTok of all these like funny videos of like white people doing the most for Black people.
Yeah.
Black History Month is beautiful. However, as soon as that month is over, things is different. You know, every day is not going to be, well, let's talk about this Black person, important Black person. Let's spotlight this Black person, right? So to answer that, like, I don't even know if I'm at that part where I'm like, I can 100% say like, oh yeah, like I'm proud to be Black 100%. But there are days when it knocks me down so hard that I'm like, oh my goodness, there's no swearing on this, right? Okay, good, sorry. Oh my goodness, like, why, like, I wish if I wasn't Black, I would have been able to get that opportunity. Why are my white peers or other peers who are different from me getting this opportunity? And you start comparing yourself, and then imposter syndrome hits in, burnout hits in, especially if you're in work of activism and you're actively trying to change the system and you're working against it. There are days where you're going to feel crap about yourself. But then there your community and family and friends, you self-realization and being Black joy and looking for that changes your aspect. But I think it's an everyday thing, and I wouldn't say I'm 100% there yet, because I'm still young. I'm only 23. You know, like, I'm still figuring myself out. Yeah. But I feel like it changes.
It changes. Now, for the last month, right, we just came out of Black History Month, right, and I keep saying week after week, and other people are saying it too. Yeah, we've got Black History Month, but we're Black all the time. And we kind of have to fight past the narrative, right? Because we allowed somebody to say, okay, here we go, we got February. And it's great because what it does in that month, it brings a lot of outside attention that won't normally. right? But we got to now take that and say, as it comes, and say, hey, people, we're black all the time. So yes, yeah, thank you for at least making an effort to recognize, but maybe the recognition isn't enough because we're black 365, 24/7 and all that good
Yeah.
stuff, right? And you only want to recognize us 1 month, which leaves another 11 months, right? And it's the shortest month too, right? The 28 days, but I'm not even going to get into that for a minute. But, you know, yes, I'm glad that at least it's there to start, but we need, like, it's you and everybody, people coming up and people that are there got to push that boundary and say, hey, what happened to the rest of the month? Thank you. What
Yeah.
happened? How do we extend it? How do we make
Yeah.
it better? How do we make it 365? Right? As we continue with your experience at King's College, right? What's your experience of London as a whole?
I actually never grew up here, so.
No, I know, but
I
just
know. I might get into it. Don't worry. In terms of like, I've only been here for 5 years,
Yeah.
so my 5-year experience, it's different. As you mentioned before, it's a culture shock.
Yeah.
I grew up in Brampton, so that's like completely different. It's more diverse. I feel like I had a lot more black community there just because that's where I grew up. Until this year, I'm like, holy, I didn't know that there were this many black people in London. Or like, I didn't know the community was so tight-knit, or I didn't know it focused on like true community and genuine community and uplifting like youth and also like finding mentorship. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So honestly, my experience, I think I was so focused on school that that's all I focused on.
Yeah, I get it.
And that was my experience. But I never really faced a lot of like too bad of situations specifically, like because it's London. But I know of other people who or friends around me that experience different things, and I'm like, wow, London really needs to change. Like, we need to expand. Like, it's there's a lot of the city itself is completely different from the actual people that live in it. And I'm talking about people who have the authority to change laws and bylaws and policies, completely different. Versus the community they want change. They want to see the world, not the world, but just London specifically expand. And I think London has a amazing network, and it's a fact. It's one of the best cities to start a business and expand your business, because it's one of the most it's really diverse. You have black, you have Asian, you have literally anything that you could think of. It's in London, right? But it's not recognized.
Yeah, I feel it.
Our cities, the policies that we have, and the stuff that we don't focus on and expand in the community, the fact that libraries and stuff are not funded, but police is like 130. Actually, no, I'm not gonna lie, but like, it's millions. It's a lot. It's a good percent of the funding, and it's like 6% for libraries and actual like community building. I feel like we need to do better on like watering the plants, if that makes sense. Like, the plants are there, the grass is there. It just needs to keep growing with some water and some nurturing, and that really means also from the top.
Yeah.
Right? The water needs to drop down to the people.
Well said, I hear you.
To grow.
Now, with you recognizing that, do you think we need more Western input? And because a lot of times it's like Western there, the rest of London is here, right? And like I said, we were trying to reach out and we try to make these bridges, build these bridges, so that it's not just, okay, Western, when as a black person, you come in, you still stay within your group, right? But because you're thinking of how London is, you might not want to reach out. You might not want to see what's there. You're like, yeah, I'm only here for school. I'm going back as soon as school is over, right? But there's so many black kids at Western, right? We need to see that in the community and them playing a vital part in the community, right? So that's why it's like the groups. I know, and I'm gonna talk about one for a minute. The Congress of Black Women. They try to reach out. They do a good job of reaching out. Now that you know what you know, what would you tell? Let's look at the groups at Western. You've got ASA, you've got PSA, you've got, of course, CSO. Right? How would you get more people involved in London?
And those like specific, like how do I get those organizations?
What would you tell somebody to, if you had to talk to them and say, okay, get involved in stuff in London?
Oh yeah.
What would you tell them?
Honestly, speaking from experience, because when I was first started university, for the first 2 years, I didn't get involved in anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't even want to join BSA because I was so scared. I don't know why.
What were you scared of?
I really don't know why. I think it's sometimes hard to actually make friends in the Black community. I'm not gonna lie.
I hear you.
It is. It's. I think we're also like focused on ourselves too, like trying to like survive.
Yeah.
That it's hard to like expand yourself to other people. But besides that, I honestly decided, I was like, I'm not the type of person to sit down and sit back and just chill. I'm always like doing something. And I'm like, okay, I'm tired now. I need to actually like get involved. And then the more I got involved, the more connections I made, the more people I made, the more opportunities I got. And I was like, wow, like this is going well, but also a lot of hardships. I cannot deny that. But I would tell someone to get involved because like it's a part of a university experience. It's a part of life in order to expand yourself, but also to gain experience and create connections or just like be happy is to get involved. Because we live in a world that's like it's already a mess. It's a hot mess everywhere. And the only enjoyment that you could probably get, obviously, is to be involved with people. And it's hard though, because life is not easy.
Yeah. Let me touch back on trying to get involved in black groups and stuff. Part of BSA?
Me?
Yes.
I haven't been a part of any of the clubs. Surprisingly, I know. I've been a member of attended events and stuff, but I just haven't been like an actual member.
What do you think is the hardest part of actually being involved with the groups? Because you talk about us as people being self-absorbed to a certain extent, right? Which makes it hard sometimes to create those liaisons. Is it liaisons or?
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say self-absorbed. I would want to, so people don't get the wrong thing. It's more of like a lot of imposter syndrome that you're not able to actually be a friend or be a connection, or you stick to what you know, and it's hard for people who are just come in to do that, like to want to do that.
Okay, so it's more like if you're Caribbean, you want to stick with CSO, and it just stays within that group. Well, obviously because it's Caribbean Students Association, so yeah, that's kind of. But then you have the BSO, right?
BSA.
BSA. And at times they're considered the more. At one point they were considered the deeper of the, and if I say deeper because they would breach more, they'd breach on an intellectual side, I guess.
There's a huge difference in them because obviously African Association is a lot of obviously Africans.
Yeah.
And Africa could mean literally anywhere in Africa.
Yeah.
You got West, you got East, all this stuff, and then with the Caribbean Association, it's also like very much like it's different there too. In my experience, I mean, because I grew up in Jamaica.
Yeah.
I was predominantly like black people, right? For me, and I was like so shocked to see so many different like Caribbean
Yeah.
in the Caribbean Association. So I was like, oh my goodness, like there's not many Jamaicans in there.
Yeah.
It was more of like a lot of Trinidadians, and it was different. And y'all know there's no war between me and Trinidadian people, but it's we have our little like it's just not the same. Like it's different. And I've been to Caribbean Association events. I'm friends with people. I have relationship with all the clubs, right?
Yeah.
In some way or form. And then BSA is different too, because you also have like it's literally anyone. It's kind of like everyone from different places, whether you grew up in London, you're just coming like from somewhere else. It's like you meet different people, so it's all like, yeah.
I'm gonna give you my experience in Jamaica, right? Because the funniest thing is where I went to school, there was always white people, right? I grew up in Mandeville,
Okay.
right? And Mandeville it's now Northeastern University, right? Before it used to be West Indies College because it was all Seventh Day and all that, right? So it has high school, university, primary school, primary school, right? High school, university. So I did 4 and 5, did my GCs and all that stuff, right? But I actually saw white people. And then in Mandeville, there used to be a school called Church Teachers College, right? It was closer to where, and Church Teachers College, as I said, it was a teachers college, and they always had, like, there was Argentinians that used to come in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so there was always diversity in between those two.
Yeah.
Right, so I ended up seeing a lot of white people, right? But my experiences with really getting to know white people was when I came to Toronto. So I come to Toronto, and it's a whole different thing, because I would say Jamaica is more about classism, not racism, classism. And then you come here and there's...
And colorism too.
Yeah, well, yep, right? And then you come here and it's straight out racism, right? So those are the difference. London, Ontario is a different dynamic, right? It's got its good and bad points, like you said, when comparing it to Brampton, you're not going to see that Brampton vibe here as much. It's gotten a lot better, right? So, and people are doing things. There's so many groups out there that are doing stuff now that it's good. When we get to the university aspect again, right? Like you said, you call out the different groups, and you said it's not a challenge, but it's like it's daunting, maybe. Is that the right word? Because you're trying to see where you fit in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It can be daunting if, like, that would be my advice if someone was like, if you're, especially if you have anxiety and stuff like that, like, you're not the person to, like, throw yourself in the water all the time, then it can be daunting.
Good. Now, let me come back to King's, right? King's College. Does it have a higher minority percentage than, let's say, the rest of Western, or is it in line with Western?
Our students are very diverse. Obviously, white will be dominant.
But you think there's a higher percentage of minorities?
In terms of students, in a way, kinda, yeah. But then faculty and all that stuff and admin.
Nah, I'm gonna put that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna talk about students for a minute.
I only mentioned that because it has a huge impact. Like, it depends on the question you're gonna ask, because again, the place could be diverse but doesn't mean anything.
Nah, and I'm just gonna tackle it from the student's perspective, because then there's a whole different set of worms that we got to open up if we start talking about faculty and what can be done, right? So, just in terms of students, so when you look around King's College, do you see more of you than you would normally, or is it like that, or?
No.
Okay, so it's mostly in line with what the rest.
Yeah, like it is. I mean, but it is diverse though. That's because it's a smaller community. That's why I mentioned, like your class could be in what diverse, but depends on which class. Like we have a high number of international students.
Yeah.
That's because the university is majority of their funding is from international, and then half of like the rest of it is like students from domestic.
Now, what position do you hold at King's?
The president at the King's University Student Council.
How long are you allowed to? Is there a time limit to?
Oh, my
term limit?
My term's coming up to an end soon.
And is it just for this year?
Yeah, it started in May last year.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What did you accomplish? What do you think what was your biggest accomplishment?
I would say this man. The fact that I am very much like not, I always speak my mind.
Yeah.
So I accomplished staying genuine to myself and truth and holding the truth.
Yeah.
And sticking to my words. But also I accomplished having conversations on the experiences of the students. Like COVID, like a lot of my conversation this year was on student wellness, especially because the switch from online to in-person to online, the flux, a lot of students are burnt out.
Okay.
Especially students, racialized students, Black students, Indigenous students, etc. We're burnt out, and the university structure is old. And I had to face a lot of white people, and that didn't like me because of me bringing up uncomfortable conversations and a lot of defensiveness.
Yeah.
And a lot of uncomfortableness sitting in rooms, microaggressions that I faced, racism, straight blunt racism.
Okay.
But I made conversations happen, and people reached out to me, and I started balls moving in terms of student wellness, in terms of bettering the policies, looking at how we see students and the compensation that they do. If they work for us, is this volunteer or should we be paying students? I'm also a research assistant and a mentor, anti-racist mentor, so I do also that, and I get to learn and understand the university structure, and how deeply rooted it is in colonialism, and how we can dismantle that with using our own tools. And I'm really strong on like decolonization, and that's what I would say that I can say, and other people can say that Shay stuck to her words, and she made the white men shake in their boots.
Oh my goodness!
And I did.
There's somebody that I wish we had on the show right now, because she'd be congratulatory towards you. We have a host sometimes, her name is Melissa Alder.
Oh, nice.
She's very strong-minded in terms of what needs to change, right? And you're putting things out there so bluntly in terms of, okay, this is it, right? So I'm just going to assume that's how you put it to the people that you had.
Yeah, there's no hiding it. I mean, I say it in meetings in front of people. I sit on many community boards and I say it, and it's the target's on my back. But whatever I say here is they already know.
Okay. Do you think at times you overdo it or oversay it, or is it necessary?
Are there times that I could shut my mouth? 100%.
No, I'm not. No. Hold on. There's a difference. Hold on. I said over.
Over?
But I say, and that's over. I didn't say not to say it, right? Because that would be that, no, I'm not going to say that, but
No, no, no.
because sometimes the conversations come up as, okay, you know what, we're saying things, we're saying you're racist, we're saying that, you know, this, but sometimes people say, okay, you're oversaying, you're saying it, and that's where I went with this.
I mean, naturally, I could be speaking about something that's so simple, and this is how microaggression works too. But because I'm a black woman, and anything that I say, and you hear my voice, I'm very soft spoken, but very strong. The words really have an impact on people. But I have learned how to choose wisely and choose my words wisely.
Okay.
Especially with my parents growing up, they taught me well, and I've had times where I open my mouth, and was it true? 100%, it was true. But I've learned to navigate and strategically choosing my words wisely, and as well as making the person not feel like they're attacked, but also just having them acknowledge the wrongdoing as well as the repeatedness of whatever is going on, in a way that, again, I don't regret it, because I started conversations, I've made movements happen that the university has never seen before.
Okay.
And I can still walk away and know that when they think of me, they know they know already, like, oh yeah, I remember that girl, like, you know, she really did something, and then that something is still working in the background. I'm more of the background work, but also do a lot of these outspoken things. But to get back to your question, there are times where I can't say what I want to say, and it's hard. I go home crying sometimes because it's tough to be in a dominated white space. All the meetings that I sit in, I'm the only black person, only 23-year-old, so young person that are in these offices, and I speak up, and there are people who speak back to me, and they're like, well, this is not how it's supposed to be, and they will get defensive, and I'm like, wow. So age really isn't a thing here. Like, we can all be mature adults, but you'll be surprised with the defensiveness that I get.
Is it defensive because of age, right?
No, I think it's the reason why it's defensive is because as kids, you grew up thinking that when you're older, you're more wiser. And you are wise, 100%. With age comes with wiseness and stuff like that. But even sometimes adults themselves, they think that they're doing the best job, as well as they are in their own term, 100%. But they're not open to change and open to. It's harder to get older generations to open to wanting to change.
Oh man, I'm gonna take one to the heart right here. I know, but that's just me.
When I meet someone that's in like a much older generation than yours, and they're like talking about stuff that I'm talking about, that like social justice issue, I'm like, wow, like, wait, that exists? That doesn't normally exist, and that's why a lot of the times university makes the same mistakes, because a lot of the times the people who sit in those positions are older people who don't have the student experience, or don't understand, or were one student, but
so
don't understand
the gap,
the
gap is so far that they don't know how to bridge it. And then here you come along, and when I get back to the age, here you come along as a 23-year-old, and you're going to talk all these things, and sometimes it's like, you can't talk to me like that, because I've got all this wisdom, I've got all that, right? And
they all have PhDs,
right?
Like,
so
big names to their name.
Does that make you go harder at them though? Because I'm just
no, I like the challenge. I'm not gonna lie. But also, and it does backfire sometimes. I mean, when I'm like, okay, so maybe we shouldn't have said that, or that wasn't right. Like, what they did to me wasn't right. You know?
Yeah.
Not to give too much away.
No, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, not to go into details, but yeah, like, it's, yeah.
At the end of the day, you also have your term to fulfill.
I'm in school. I'm also in school too.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of balancing both of that.
All right. Give me some final thoughts. What would you like to leave anybody that's watching this podcast?
self-love, and stay true to yourself. Because like no matter how much work you put in, and you work like a horse, and then you finally get to the finish goal, and you can enjoy the life that you worked so hard for, because you're so broken and you're so hurt. So it's so important to, no matter what you're doing, this you can put this into every aspect of your life. Always try to seek love for yourself and ensure that you are grounded in you, and then you'll be able to pour into other people's cups, and also while maintaining your own glass. So that's all I would say.
And I'm just going to leave it like that. Thank you, Ms. Roshaydia Morgan.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
This has been another edition of Real Talk Straight Talk. Once again, big shouts to our sponsors, the Wayne Community Center, Up Like 7 Barbershop, Fix Hair Salon. I forgot to talk about my dude, Steven, over at Pride, Fire Night Bar and Grill. And of course, I got to go out of town and talk about Rhythm Movements Community Association out in Ottawa, and of course from Hamilton Soul Kitchen Radio. This has been another edition. We'll catch you next time.
Louisa.